Hello, good evening, everyone. It is, of course, transfer deadline day. We're here to give you the latest Liverpool updates from today, with 3 hours left until that 11 p.m. UK time deadline comes into play for Liverpool. So, before myself and Ben Bocsak get into what has happened today, I'll give you a quick roundup of what's happened so far. It's been relatively quiet up until this point. Obviously, Nat Phillips has gone to Bournemouth on loan for the rest of this season. Luis Diaz, of course, had already been wrapped up by Liverpool. No movement just yet on Fabio Carvalho. Lots of reports, though, this evening that negotiations are continuing for him, so we will keep our eyes on that one for all of the latest, but nothing yet on the likes of Minamino, Origi, Neco Williams as well, that we thought could possibly move on. So still plenty to be determined for Liverpool, Ben. The one thing that we do have confirmed so far is Nat Phillips to Bournemouth, as I mentioned, a loan for the rest of this season. Is that a good move, do you think, for him, or are you possibly a little bit surprised that he's not got a Premier League move?
I mean, it is a surprise that no one really wanted to make a move for him from the Premier League. You see Brighton selling Dan Burn. Could have seen them make a bid for Phillips, but I think in the grand scheme of things, Liverpool were clearly, it looked like they were not going to get an offer that they were happy with. And in that sense, it makes sense to send him out on loan and make sure he's still playing. And, potentially if he gets promoted at Bournemouth, Liverpool could still sell him on for a good fee in the summer.
Yeah.
Whereas, as opposed to that, if he just sits on the bench or not even on the bench and out of Liverpool squad for the next 6 months, you'd see his value depreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Liverpool tied him down to a contract, didn't they, in the summer, which was maybe slightly surprising to some, but then it does open up this opportunity for him to go, obviously, then and impress for Bournemouth now. It could be that Bournemouth come in and get him. It could be that he impresses and maybe somebody else comes in for him. And I believe Liverpool getting a £1.5 million fee for his loan deal as well, which is obviously an important part of that deal. So, yeah, best of luck to Nat Phillips. In terms of the other stuff that has kind of happened then today, we're still waiting for updates. Lots of people in the comments asking about Fabio Carvalho. It's one that hasn't quite happened yet. We know, obviously, that Liverpool are interested. They're quite keen to get that one done. If they are going to get it done, we believe that they want to do that today if they can, to avoid any sort of race or any kind of sort of court dealings to work out a tribunal fee in the summer. I mean, you've written plenty about Fabio Carvalho over on Liverpool.com. It's no real surprise, is it, put it that way, that Liverpool would be interested?
No, he fits the profile, and he's available at the moment for a relatively cheap price. He's someone who can play in midfield, someone who could potentially play out wide. People have compared him to Coutinho, others to Jota, and even Salah. I think there's a lot of good things. There's a big buzz around him in the Championship, and he caught the eye in the Premier League as well towards the last few weeks of the season. So he's clearly already has some Premier League experience on top of everything, and it just seems like the type of deal Liverpool like to make.
Yeah, it certainly makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If they can agree the fee. I mean, he's obviously been impressing. He's scored, I think, 8 times this season already. Plenty of assists. He can kind of play in midfield or further forward as well. I mean, it's not a done deal yet. There's still negotiations going on. It's far from certain that Liverpool do get this deal done. But if they do get it done, it will be a case that he will stay at Fulham for the rest of this season. So if Liverpool can do this, he will be on loan there for the rest of this season anyway. And I suppose that makes sense as well, doesn't it, for a player of that age to be playing that regularly. It's obviously important for his development, but important for Fulham as well as they try and get back into the Premier League, of course.
Absolutely, I think it works for all parties. If he were to come in January with Liverpool competing in the Champions League, they have big games in the Premier League, Champions League. Every game in the Premier League is a must-win. So you only really see him being given a chance in the FA Cup. And then obviously there's the League Cup final, which he'll unlikely to, I think he's ineligible to feature in as well because he's already played for Fulham in that. Might be wrong in that though. So you don't really, it's difficult to break into the side coming in January. So it makes sense to loan him back. And then in the summer over pre-season, he'll have the chance to catch Klopp's eye and a much better opportunity to sort of settle into the squad should the transfer go through, of course.
Yeah, certainly far from certain at the moment. As we said, sort of 3 hours or just under now for Liverpool to be able to get that deal done. Of course, if they don't do it now, they could wait until the summer and try and do that then. They could try and get him on a free transfer. But of course, they will know that plenty of other teams are interested as well, even sort of Real Madrid, Barcelona, all of those kind of clubs abroad. Borussia Dortmund have been linked with him as well. So I'm sure there'd be no shortage of suitors if that was to potentially happen, but Liverpool are trying to get that deal done today. We will see whether or not that happens. We'll keep you updated, of course, in terms of that. We'll obviously keep people updated as well in terms of any more outgoings. We've discussed Nat Phillips, who's made his way out on loan. There's still a couple of other players that could do similar or possibly even go on a permanent deal in the next couple of hours. Takumi Minamino and Divock Origi would be kind of the two more obvious ones that you think could move on. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case at the moment. There is still time, of course, for that to change. But if they were to stay, given, of course, that Luis Diaz is at Liverpool now as well, you've got obviously the existing front three, the traditional front three, you've got Diogo Jota. Is that the right thing, do you think, for them to stay at Liverpool for the next 6 months?
It's a difficult one. I think with Minamino, I can see the incentive of him staying. He hasn't won a trophy at Liverpool. He's been really involved with the League Cup campaign, and that's a good opportunity for him to get his first trophy at Liverpool. And I think as well, just based on everything, he'll want to leave his Liverpool career on a high if he does leave. And I think with him, there's not as much of a risk of his value depreciating, because I think even with Diaz coming in, you'll still see him feature, and it just gives Liverpool no excuses to compete in all four fronts now. With the FA Cup game coming up against Cardiff as well, I think it gives Liverpool a great opportunity to get a couple of domestic trophies on the board as well.
Yeah, certainly plenty of depth for them if both of those players do stick around. That was the line when Luis Diaz came in, was that they wouldn't necessarily have to sell one of those players. Of course, Divock Origi has to sort of play enough games, I believe it's league games before the end of this season, to get an extended contract. I wouldn't have thought that would happen, but like you say, Ben, it's probably no bad thing to have him as a backup option. They wouldn't have made that much money on him anyway in January, so if he does stick around, they're probably not going to lose out by that much.
Exactly, and I think it just gives a little opportunity for Origi to, go out on the high at Liverpool. Like I said, hopefully get some trophies on the board, and it also gives him the chance to say a proper goodbye to the Anfield crowd at the end of the season if he does leave on a free. And you never know, that there could. We've had injury crises before, so it's not a bad thing to keep players around, because you might just be needed, and especially when you're chasing a goal last 10 minutes, putting Origi on has never been not a bad idea. So you just never know.
Yeah, fingers crossed he's got one or two more of those mad, crazy moments to come before the end of his Liverpool career. But still in the balance whether he will be a Liverpool player for sure after today. But as I say, we'll keep you obviously updated there as well. There's also been a bit of speculation around Neco Williams as well, obviously, with him potentially wanting to go out and get game time. Again, no guarantee one way or the other. There has been a bit of interest, we believe, from a couple of teams in terms of a possible loan deal. But to me, I've always said this, I don't want to see him leave. I don't want to see him move on, because Liverpool need a backup option for Trent Alexander-Arnold. It would seem, as much as the player might want to go and get more minutes, it would seem a little bit of a risk to me if they were to let him go.
I think so. It's the complete opposite of the Origi and Minamino cases, where Liverpool might have enough depth to cope without Minamino and Origi. With Williams, I always worry about Milner playing right back. I don't think he's quite got the pace for that right back role, and Williams, I do think, is more suited to be a cover for Trent, even though it is very difficult to be of the same quality as Trent, or to play like Trent, because he's such a unique player. But I do like Williams in that right back role. I think, he is someone who is just an adequate cover and nothing else really.
Yeah, certainly got plenty of qualities, hasn't he? So fingers crossed he does stay, but there is a small possibility, I think it's fair to say, that he could head out on loan. But I think that will do us then for this latest update. All of the updates, as I say, across the Liverpool Echo, liverpool.com and Blood Red over the next few hours. We'll be back with analysis and all the latest at the end of the transfer window as well in a few hours' time. So do come back to us for that as well. Plenty more content on the way, possibly one or two more bits of transfer business to do before then as well. But until then, we'll see you later.